maybe not feel very lines.
Been there, done that. Thank you. All right. Welcome to the June 20th, 2023 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Sorry we're late. We ran over a little bit downstairs, on over issues. We have a whole host of things on the agenda. If you're looking at the agenda, I think 2341, 2342, and 2347 are not represented. We will not hear them tonight. Unless I'm wrong, anyone here for any of those fields? Okay. Then the rest of them, we will keep in the order that we see them. Starting with the school fine. Announce that properly. School fine and school fine. Oh, yeah. Welcome back.
So I know last time was up top, I guess you guys want to go more better measurement numbers.
And all five of us were here last month, correct? Okay, so I need to bring anyone up to speed.
And I know the day after last month's meeting, of course, awful names that fell there and other when the city came out. And I said they got their own measures some of that order question. I know Todd improvement was going to come by, but I told him to kind of pull out because I know I was told that they did get the measurements that were needed. Question. So I know probably most of you gone by recently. And I did take back. That's what that. But it's not, I took it, I'm gonna overhead. For this, I think somebody like Google Maps doesn't really show that they do the sidewalk overhead. Kind of show the sidewalk. Everything. Sidewalk. You guys need anything like that, but I don't actually. Go by in person to see it.
James, you did a plot plan, or someone did?
Yeah, I just got it here and told it. Can we pass that around to you guys?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Since that sidewalk didn't put in, if you guys notice, of course, there's a lot more foot, bike, dog, traffic going through the area. Kind of just makes us want a little, again, the 6 foot privacy, a little more than we wanted previously. And not just for our dogs, so, you know, of course, if they see anybody walk by, they go crazy, but just. Again, a lot of people are now taking advantage of that new sidewalk, walking through it. We're back there sitting.
So basically, what that plot is showing us is the corner that is closest to your lot line is where the 18 feet comes out from the house. And it's 10 feet from that corner to the lot line. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
And then it goes to the other corner, and that is 12 feet. Is that what it shows?
Yes.
And everywhere in between is farther from the lot line.
Again, the drawing there for Todd is the best, just because he did it before that sidewalk was there.
Yeah.
Kind of try to ballpark idea where it was going to be. But again, he took the measurements the best he could. Again, yes, where it would be installed.
He's putting that up there.
I could stand it, it's gonna take a few minutes.
Okay.
Where does the property line correspond to the sidewalk? Is the sidewalk outside the property lines?
Typically, the sidewalk is on city property.
Okay,
It's they use the whole right of way sidewalk to sidewalk. And usually it's not exact, they leave a little bit of room.
okay.
So the 10 feet that's on that drawing, is that to the sidewalk or is it?
The sidewalk wasn't there at the time. Oh, the 10 feet?
Yeah,
Yes,
so that's from the edge of the fence where.
that's the nearest distance to the sidewalk.
To sidewalk.
To the sidewalk.
Sidewalk. 10 feet.
The sidewalk was there.
Yes,
Yeah, how long's the sidewalk been there?
2 weeks.
Yeah, I would say like a month, I hope that.
Pretty recent.
Yeah, after the last meeting, these guys went out and measured. Now, the sidewalk is typically very close to the property, like within 6 inches.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry, it does, it did say on here actually that isn't the property line. 10 feet.
So at its closest, to the road, the fence is gonna be 10 feet from the sidewalk. Probably, which
Based
is,
on our best,
basically the area.
yeah, it's actually, it's very close, yeah.
They try and put the sidewalk as far from the curb so that they've got that room to plow snow off and put lights and utilities in there.
Doesn't kill me every winter time. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's just, again, a lot more foot traffic coming there. Again, we didn't expect, we bought the house, wasn't really expecting our backyard to be a front yard, so we didn't really think of that. So, it's, I'm not saying there's hundreds of people walking through or biking through, all the time, but there's a lot, and again, if we want to have our dogs back there, they kind of go crazy, especially the dogs go through. Was mentioned like a 4-foot fence, and I'm not, of course, I'm not worried about like my little dogs jumping over a 4-foot fence, but people will still park over that 4-foot fence when we walk through, so it still makes them go crazy, but. Again, if you walk by a 4-foot fence, they can still see them.
Right.
Through.
There had been some discussion at the last meeting about fence line following or like following the curve more.
Yeah, it is gonna be curved, like, I don't know what he's, I guess, decided to draw a straight line on the drawing he did, but we did discuss he was gonna curve it to the.
So that the offset from the sidewalk would be more consistent.
Yeah,
So just to be clear, you had wanted to come out from, I believe that would be this north side of your house. With a 6-foot fence and then run. East-west with 6 feet. And then curve around to come out 10 foot from your corner.
so. Yeah, but like the other, so it would be like the right corner of the house right now.
Right.
Picture, it comes like straight out 18 feet. Should be then like the 10 feet from the side of the property line, and it's kind of follows curvature. And I know, like I said, the closest to be is at that corner, would be the 10 feet, because we gotta account for that big tree that's there, that we want to kind of up that. Not close, but close enough, to give enough room for people to not be in the ways. So I think it's still over 10 feet in that area. We want to go in, if it was even more in, once you get more to that, to make plenty of room for the utility box that's there, there's plenty of clearance, not to get in the way of that. I don't know if there's any like street views to show like the hedges that are back there, so I can kind of give a eyeball, like where he's gonna put. Yeah. So that's-
Yeah, I'm not gonna go on that stuff.
Right.
Yes, please.
So I'm gonna, kind of give up the ghost on my position with this, because I want to ask you if you're willing to do some modifying, and I believe I asked you that the last time. I'm not a fan of putting a 6-foot fence right there. I absolutely hear your struggle, and I appreciate that, I really do. But the fact that there's more foot traffic there, actually, more solidifies my position that people don't want to walk against a 6-foot fence right there, especially if it's only like 6 inches from the sidewalk. That's my perspective. So I'm just exploring with you, would you be open
So
to,
it's 10 feet from the sidewalk.
Be like 10 feet into the sidewalk.
can I see that picture again? please?
Yeah, he's 10 feet.
Yeah, well, they
So
still.
it's, the sidewalk would be 10 feet out from this corner, in this direction.
Okay, I need to see that picture.
We have that.
This one or the one with the sidewalk, this picture of the sidewalk.
No,
No, you're fine.
Because like when I measured it, this,
Okay.
the fence like, fenced it off this general area. Right here, as opposed to, yeah.
okay,
The property line, consider the property line essentially the same as the edge of the sidewalk. Feel a little differently.
I don't know. I love fence, I have fence in my yard, I really do love it, but
That's what we wanted.
fence.
We didn't want to, you know, again,
Yeah,
if we could have put it that close. We would have done it, this would be not even able to, you know, walking down the side of the fence right there. And that's why I wanted, we told Todd and made sure there's plenty of room. Before we knew what we had to add it. Before we make sure there's plenty of room for the impending sidewalk.
To save for confusion during this discussion, is it safe to say that no portion of that fence will be closer than 10 feet to the sidewalk?
Okay, that'll be the closest, and then again, that'll be.
That's the closest point, and it gets further from the sidewalk.
Like I said, it goes, I don't know, because I have like a current overhead view, like satellite picture on my phone, I don't know if this way.
Did you find the satellite?
Really, to give you my input, just because I live in the
Sure.
neighborhood, I don't have a problem with the plan as is. I think completely understand it is a very high traffic area as far as people and little children and stuff walking around, and I think I understand the desire to have a fence, and I think 10 feet back from the sidewalk. Because I walk around this location a lot, I would think it would be a visual hazard of this. I don't think it would bother me visually.
As
feel like
we move
it's
further
6
west,
feet.
it's more than 10 feet.
Yeah, because it goes like, so there's that utility box, so we wanna ways in, so plenty of, and percent tree lot, sure.
I mean, that looks like the silhouette of an old sidewalk, right?
Yeah, which is.
Which is consistent with the new one up there, is about just as far. as the-
so just to ask it and answer it, would you consider a 5-foot fence even? Find a happy medium between what's allowed and what you're asking.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna. You know, no, but of course. We would, you know, always had the 6-foot fences, and that's what we were, you know, we've always had, like, but again, it's. Always. Compromise. But,
Your lot is basically level.
yeah,
Okay.
right, like I said, I got like, I don't know, the way that I should.
Is there a way, from the screenshot that to you? This is very nice, it's like, you know,
Well, that's the desire is to like kind of show which. Also you can see, this is the one corner, where that's the utility box. So pretty much she went from that, so just past that second hedge in is where the fence is gonna start on that end. So it was like you said, like 12 or so feet from the sidewalk. It's gonna be on that side.
Thank you.
You're being landscaped in the street side.
Like on the brown house, oh,
On the street
I was
side.
thinking about it, honestly, because technically it would still be my responsibility to mow it and all that stuff. But I was actually honestly thinking of that, because with the new grass and everything that was there, it would be nice to have some, I don't know, hedges, I don't know exactly, probably similar to what the landscaping I did for the house. Which. Use that actually.
A lot of developments since then, you know. That's crazy.
Too bad they didn't fix that curve with the sidewalks.
Yeah, I'd be definitely willing to do the landscaping on that side. It wasn't my mind to do the same about it. Plants and everything around it. Recently, really all landscaping in the house.
Well, let me open up to the public. I did have, I left the public portion open. Anyone in the public want to speak? No, all right, then I will close it. All right. Any other questions? I think we pretty familiar with what we got. You brought up. One of the things we might consider that I would possibly feel better about is if we went 12 feet all the way around all of the sidewalk, just from an aesthetic standpoint.
Which again, I'm completely fine with perfectly, you know, like, instead of 18, it was 16, you know. One side, even then.
Yeah, basically, an even.
Which, again, those are measurements for the sidewalk, and again, we're not looking to. I mean, most people don't do this, but we're not looking to maximize the fenced in area back there, we're just looking to. Again, have a decent area back there, fenced in. However much we need to go more in, completely fine with that, that's not a problem.
12 all the way around is a good compromise. And it would look good there.
Well, the other is, it's not, went into his other front yard. It's in the corner.
I wanted that something.
Which I considered, well, moving around there, it's like, yeah. You know. Anybody else have any other questions? If not, we'll entertain the seeker, which we did not address. To we check, yes, it's building permit. Everything else was good. Straightforward.
So I make a motion for number 2351. That the board chair review questions 1 through 11 and mark no or small impact maker.
And
I'll second.
Inside.
Also.
finish up your thing, which do I check at the bottom?
No,
And there's 2 questions at the end.
I'm gonna step out of this one. I don't check the box that you determined. The proposed action. Will not result in any significant adverse environmental.
There we go. All in favor? Aye. Okay. And we'll entertain a motion on the fence itself.
I'll make a motion to review appeal 2351 for class B area variance for a 6-foot high privacy fence in the front yard setback on a corner lot. Under the stipulations that it follows the property line a minimum of 12 feet.
That it does not exceed.
That it not
12 feet of property.
exceed within 12 feet of that.
No closer.
No closer than 12 feet from the property line.
Yes.
Now typically what that would mean is that he wouldn't have to go to 12 feet,
Correct.
just to make sure that
He could go less.
the bullets.
Yes.
You could stay further from the sidewalk if you chose that.
to go like, go like 15 feet from the sidewalk.
Yeah, okay,
Just to
that's all.
make something look better to go a little further.
Qualified that it ends where it ends, and then it doesn't keep going.
Oh.
That property line.
How do you say that?
Well, we could say for the plans only the. Is there north and south on either? What is that 10-foot corner? Would that be your south? That would be your south or southeast, southwest.
Yeah. That's like
Okay.
And you step out of your door, what direction are you facing?
mostly east, I would say. Sort of east. East-ish.
Okay, so back door you're facing was that be the southwest?
Because yeah, the backside of the house is really hot and heavy. So that's
Okay, so then that southwest side.
And I would say you could quantify that by saying as shown.
Okay, and so as shown on the diagram, the southeast side, southwest side,
Yes.
should not exceed,
Not extend
should
beyond.
not extend beyond,
Show them. Got
yeah, that.
that.
Second.
And second by Emily. Right, so yes, so is the grant and. And what is to reject it?
Okay.
Okay. No's are 1. And yeses are 4. So you are approved to go. Did the no want to say anything?
You already knew it was coming for me, and I'm sorry, I love your house and I love your property, I think that the fence is gonna look really nice and be great for you guys for privacy, I just have a problem with 6 feet. But I already knew they were gonna give it to me anyway, so I keep my voice.
So I don't know what the next steps, like I know,
Yeah, the building permit.
just okay, the stop by the office.
Am I correct, Joe? Okay.
Next step is building permit.
Okay.
And it's still pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, been kind of, was waiting to hear, so I know if I needed to change anything. Prepared and all I knew.
Get a building permit. Have to talk, get in touch with us about meeting on site to verify the location.
I know he said he works with you guys quite often, so yeah, I think you guys know each other quite well. All right, I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I think they're all, everyone's right instead of left.
All right, keep losing my agenda. Okay. J. Adrian Boothville, 61 Court Street. Good evening. Okay. You are looking for a Class A use variance request for allowance of an additional residential unit. With pre-existing non-conforming mixed-use commercial property. First off, are you familiar with the requirements for Class A use? No. Okay. Basically, there are 4 criteria that we have to review. One is financial hardship. It's in your application, but we basically have to go through and quantify against those. Okay, we basically have to go through those 4 questions.
Okay,
And verify that your application meets all the requirements. Okay, one is lack of reasonable return. Another is why the hardship is unique to the property. Third one is that it will not change the essential character of the neighborhood. And fourth is why the alleged hardship has not been self-created. Okay. So that's what we're gonna go on. And this is a sticky situation because it's pre-existing non-conforming in all aspects. And you are looking to go from 1 commercial property and 2 apartments, am I correct? You're going from 3?
no,
Okay, you're going from,
the commercial.
what you had before, you had 1 commercial
And 2 apartments
and 2 apartments. And now you want to go to 1 commercial
and 3 apartments,
and 3 apartments.
because the commercial space is pretty big, it's only 1.5.
Okay,
So there was a door on the backside that went to the apartments upstairs. And then mine.
okay,
So it was all interconnected, the whole house was interconnected. If you go either way, I think at one time, the commercial space was just that one front. And a big window is. And then I think Bob Keating was there, wanted to get rules, and he just gave it. to him. So there was, into the foyer where it was upstairs, there was a door. Well, they have a dog upstairs, and that dog used to lay by the door and bark, and he couldn't hear what was going on in the office. So he asked me if I could close the door off and insulate, and muffle the sound, and that's what I did. And so but nobody wants to rent the whole, I got no problem renting half. I can't rent the other half. They don't want, it's big.
okay. But what you're adding is another non-conforming unit.
Yes, that's what you want to call it,
Yeah. It's exactly what it is.
okay.
Because you aren't getting rid of the commercial.
No, let me rent the commercial.
The residential is a less non-conforming use than the commercial. But you're not getting rid of the commercial for residential, you're adding 1 residential and still retaining the commercial.
Half of the commercial.
Okay, but it's still
So commercial.
1, you're going 1 to
So
2.
if you got it like that, the commercial is all residential.
If you made that whole area 1 residential, it would be considered a more conforming use than what you have right now, or than what you had. Okay, and then it would be, would it even go with Forest Gump?
If it was incorporated,
If he turns the whole commercial into 1 apartment?
2 apartments.
if you turn it into a 3rd unit, is that what we're talking about?
And get rid of
And
it.
get rid of all the commercial.
Yes, you still need to go on it, but 3 families not on it. You're saying.
But it's more conforming.
I mean, I haven't broken it down. We haven't looked at it like that,
Okay,
to be honest, with you. It's the first time we've heard that question.
okay. Because residential is more conforming than commercial in that district, correct?
Yeah, it goes from though. As you increase the number of units, that's still. Less conforming to the requirements of that district, but
Here's a really special.
What was
it
that?
probably needs a special use permit.
Okay. But not a class A. Use variance.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's within our district, of course, especially. As long as they're dealing with some
With a special use permit, you can convert from a non-conforming to another non-conforming as long as it's more conforming. And so here's the problem with this, and I think this was the problem that I had with this table last time. Office use is not identified. Retail business, laundry, daycare, banks, funeral homes. As we go down the list. I think this is where I got stuck last time. I'm actually not prepared to say one way or another on that at this moment. I think we've got tripped up on this people. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and
I guess
I think you could grant them a variance for that right now. Zoning board could.
a class A use or.
Yeah. Because it's, wherever it's not clear, we have to take the most restrictive approach. And in this list of conforming, least conforming, more conforming, office space is not in here anywhere. And that is permitted with special use permit in that district.
So then we have to go to class A. Yes, because. So you're saying that his office space is a conforming use.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes. I know in a roundabout way it's hard to, but because it's listed in the uses, in the table of permitted uses by way of a special use permit,
Then go,
and because it's not in here, that's the conclusion I'm coming to as I'm sitting here right now.
so then doing anything there requires a class A.
Yes.
Not the answer I wanted to hear, Joe. But it is clear. Okay. And I was wrong when I was talking about going all residential, because evidently the commercial is an office.
That one, I bought, which that's what it was, and it's, Capital Realty.
Kavanaugh, that's fine.
First father was Capital, and then he rented Bob Keith. When I bought Bob Keith, it was in there, he was, Capital was moving and moved out,
What is Bob's?
he was a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
He was there for about a year, a little over, then he retired.
When is it now?
What is it now? Trying to see what they did say, it could be whatever you want.
Oh, it's just this.
Right now, we've got, so drinks, involved nutrition, involved nutrition. She's been there a few months. But it was years that I had nobody in there, getting nobody wants to rent it. For one thing, when I first started, it was very full, it was about $2,000 a year just to eat. Now it's less than that because they're remodeling with some insulation. But before that, it was terrible, it was cold.
So even involved nutrition is not allowed.
Yeah, that's different, yeah.
That'd be retail, right?
That would be, I mean, I don't know exactly how, is she selling shakes there, are people going in there to?
I think you're going in there and buying whatever it is,
So that's
it's she makes.
That retail is definitely higher in the list of non-conforming uses than residential.
But that wasn't permitted.
But yes, I mean, that's the problem I have with this whole thing.
But I believe she got a permit. Yeah, because she had problems with the sign, and she was able to put the sign, she did all that on her own.
Right, I mean, the sign permit is not necessarily. Building permit, but, so I can't speak on that, if she has a shake shop right now, it would be considered.
Yeah, I was always told that was a commercial. I figured, well, you know. That was what it was in the bylaws.
From the allowed uses, office, professional office. In
Again,
the allowed use under a special permit is office is that. The blanket commercial.
Yeah. And I mean, I think what happened was there was a nutritionist. That it was more or less office space,
So
and then it sort of morphed into this other thing, and we didn't really. Know the extent of it, and I don't believe we gave it our blessing, but. Those things happen sometimes.
But then when you bring it in front of us,
Right,
we have to delve into everything.
you do.
Okay.
I have another question.
Yeah,
Shoot,
So. This is a single address, it's not actually two buildings. Because it almost looks like two separate buildings.
so it can have another. Mailing address for convenience to the post office, but. If it's on one parcel of land, which this is, then. The building itself would have one number for emergency services. It may actually have two different.
no, it's got it, it's one, but you it's not 61, now it's 61 Court Street with 101, 102, 201, and 103. That's the way, 911, yeah.
Well, back in the day when it was 5961, it's probably 59 was, their real estate office, and then 61 was the resident.
And this one here is still in residential part. The other, 59 was the addition on the side I was added in the 40s and 50s.
So it's all one building.
okay. Any other questions right off the top of your heads? One thing that the community development highlighted an issue I had with it. I'm not sure if the others did, but the financials. You talked about a couple of repairs that you did, fairly expensive repairs, but
There's a lot of things that, like the first one that happened was, all of a sudden, it was cracking the wall from the sockets all the way to the side. That was only $10 to fix that. And then I had to put a new step on the front, and a new step in the back, a roof. The thing on the driver's seat that goes around, that was up to about 4 inches, had to pull away from the wall, so I had to fix that too. Just these are all things that would be inside, and keep it going. Like the back step, something was going in the back, had to replace all of the floor, the ceiling. That was all around, so I replaced all that too. I'm going to have to think about it, because it was really, had been done in very many years.
One of the issues I have is, like you say, you did a bunch of repairs in the past 3 years or so.
Or more, that's, since about it, doing the repairs.
And you haven't given us the financials since you bought it. So there may be years that you did very well. The years you gave us was COVID years.
Those are the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But they've all been, it was all, there's nothing wrong. I fixed it, I didn't even include people that did remodel the apartment to make it there. Better. You said you're looking for what, I thought I had it. I don't have it, I'm making there.
You have the last 3 years. Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
I mean, I can go back and give you all of them if you want.
Well,
I mean, this is, I thought they said, well, they thought the last 3 would be enough.
normally that would be the case, but the last 3 years, the rental property was kind of different.
Why?
COVID.
Okay, what makes it open, different with open?
People were renting places.
I had been, in mine was vacancy, very across. And then had a vacancy the whole time, nobody's sleeping on rent.
But you're telling me that you can't rent it. So you're saying you can't rent it.
I can't rent the fit, I can't rent the purchase, I think the other ones went, the apartment, I have no problem. It's a commercial space that I have a problem, right? That's one of the vacant.
And like
Well,
commercial
it's been
places,
2 years now,
like commercial places closed up their offices because people couldn't come
right,
in
I understand that,
during COVID.
but it was like that before. So,
Um,
but I mean, that was the one, yes. If you want, I can come up with, talk about it as a bookkeeper and see what, you can go back on their computer, I'm sure you can. What we just did the last 3 years, because they figured that was what we used to question.
Yeah.
But I did ask the question.
Well, the other that I guess we really have to wrestle with is how the city wants to address it. In that, first off, you have a non-conforming activity in there that is not allowed to be in there. Right off the bat. And if it had been in office, then you are requesting a more non-conforming
And I think
activity.
you told me that we're not.
I thought it was, but then
If I put it
he
in
cleared,
residential, I thought it would be better.
he clarified it, no, that's not the case, because it was an office, okay? And an office is allowed by special use permit, which is a lot easier to get than the Class A variance, what you're looking for here. And residential apartments in that area are not allowed by special use permit. I'm sorry. Yes. Am I correct? Yes. But they are, but you would have to go to the Class A variance, which is what you're coming for, which is a lot harder to get than a use variance. Or a use permit, special use permit. And, but what you have in there now wasn't permitted. Isn't permitted. And they don't have
What was it permitted?
the retail that's in there now.
It's not permitted, wasn't permitted.
No.
So if I made that to permit all of the parties, it's better.
They would both require a Class A variance. Because neither one of them are allowed by the code in that area.
So
And
see,
there's no provision to allow them just by a special use permit. Whereas the office that was there was, first off, pre-existing, I believe, and even if it wasn't, if it came to us and said we want to put an office in there, all you need to do is come to us, and it's, you know, a basic review, your ducks are in a row, there's not an issue, boom, you're good to go. The other thing that we run into here is we have an issue with parking.
I got the parking taken care of,
How?
park off the street.
What we looked at, you have 5 parking spots.
One piece park. And that, there's two garages there, and each garage, well, one garage for one apartment, the other garage for another apartment.
Yeah,
And then on the right hand side, I can park 2 cars,
okay,
but there's only, there's only one car bullshit.
once you go to the 3 apartments, you need 6. 2 parking spots per apartment.
Okay. Garage is one in front of the door is the second one, and behind that car is the third one. I can park 2 cars in front of the garage,
No, those aren't legal parking spots,
why not?
because every vehicle individually has to be able to get out. You can't block one in a legal parking spot. I'm not saying you don't do it,
Well, that's what he's always been, it's just a lot of things like that.
Yeah. but for the code and your parking allowance, every vehicle individually has to be able to get out without moving another one.
So it may be that you could fit 6 or 8 cars in that parking lot, but when we are faced with, a use that increases the demand, we have to look at our zoning ordinance and figure out what's required. And then we have to officially figure that out, so, the 3 units themselves require 6 parking spaces, off-street parking spaces, and then the business requires at least 1 space, so that's 7 parking spaces.
Yes,
They have to have their own maneuvering area, right? So you put an example as a garage, you mentioned in the garage and then outside of the garage. So that space outside the garage can't be considered a parking space because,
Including parking right off the sidewalk, because you got enough room to come out of the garage and go around the corner.
I mean, so what we did do is take a closer look at the driveway, try and figure out calculations.
When I had person girls in the back, they had 3 cars in that one unit. And then there was the other unit had 2, and was never a problem. Plus, for a while, I had the person, they had 2 cars, and they were all parked off. Just had to go, sometimes we're a little different times of the day, but everybody had to work together. Yes,
Have
like
you
that.
ever considered including that residential space into one of the existing residential spaces?
I can do that very soon.
So if you have a ground, if the residential building. That it's upstairs, downstairs, and I don't know that that's true. Is it upstairs, downstairs?
The one in the back is upstairs, downstairs, the one in the front is upstairs. That one unit, we goes into the
If
foyer.
you incorporated that into that unit, you still only have 2 units, and that doesn't,
Well, that was.
I would say that didn't need a variance, and it wouldn't increase the parking.
No, yes.
The problem we're all having is creating a 3rd unit there. A separate unit, that's a problem with the building code too, I don't know, have you guys talked about that?
Yeah.
With the building code, that requires a sprinkler.
I said, first,
Okay, so
if it passes tonight, starting tomorrow. I'm just waiting for
you
you.
wouldn't need, if that was part of that unit though, you wouldn't need a sprinkler.
No, I know that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that.
No, I know that. Because there was a door there, at one time you could walk in the back, walk through the whole building, and I come down and go to everything. There was doors, but it was a big house, one. When I bought that 2 apartments, I didn't know what it was, about 2 didn't want 2, so they took one of the downstairs, and they gave it together. Because the door was open, all of us, the door was locked. It's a glass door. And then there was another door that went right in, and before I showed it to Jim, I went to the other apartment, I plugged out, put the pipe into, something to the glass and broke it over. So I guess what, I put some plywood in there, put sheetrock in, and that took care of that problem. That was, I can't remember who it was, I can't think of what the name, they were there for a while.
Do you understand what you're saying, though, that if you turn that second apartment, if you knock down the wall between your 2nd and 3rd apartments, you don't need to come see us?
I didn't, well, that's what I'm getting at, yes.
yes. Because the code doesn't refer to square footage. It refers to numbers of units.
Yeah, it doesn't talk about number of bedrooms either, the parking demand does, same for efficiency as a 3-bedroom, so. One of those units was a 2-bedroom and you could take that space, make it 3. Or
Well, how would I go to the building, upstairs, downstairs?
See, that, the logistics of it, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that would.
Well, the one that impacted upstairs, downstairs, that's, the 3 bedrooms, one upstairs.
Here's, I guess, where I'm coming from, and what I'd kind of like to see is. One, take a look at your options based on the discussion tonight. If you do decide to continue with the Class A use variance, we need more on the financial end. We need
Well, I do.
more duration.
The books, I could probably get financial freedom.
Yeah, and actually, I think that would be good. The other thing is, we need some supporting documentation showing where you tried to rent it, and it has the commercial space.
I had it on the internet, I had the paper. You know, I don't have the,
You should have receipts from it.
I go back 10, 12 years, 10 years.
Well, and that give me 3 or 4 units.
See, I don't have a receipt to put it on the internet, because the internet was free. Just all they had to do is to put up your credit card, I believe.
You never.
They didn't charge that much.
Screenshots of it or anything like that.
Maybe screenshot. Pictures?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, pictures of the listing.
Oh, no, no.
Okay,
I just, pictures of the apartments, I never. Trouble is that the apartments, I put it on there, and it's really moving out. Because they're nice apartments. I mean, I got one in the store, I put it on there, 10 years later, we rent it.
yeah, I've noticed.
Just because.
Things quickly.
Uh,
Hey, I've noticed that things go quickly sometimes.
well, sometimes, but don't get me wrong, I get nice apartments. All my apartments, houses are good,
Well, and
and I get top dollar.
I don't disagree with that, and that's not really the issue. The issue is we need to justify your hardship. They don't,
Well, because I'm not, I've been the last few years, I've shown the loss. 1 year more than, because I've been doing repairs, but if I go back, I'll have more repairs. From what I bought.
So you, right now, you have some empty space in the building that's not bringing in any income, that you need.
It's pretty successful, big time.
So if you could, if you did turn the commercial space into an apartment with the empty space that you have, right? Would that allow you to bring in the income you need from the building?
Well, in fact, if I could get one of it now, it would definitely help, and I would eliminate some of the loss.
That sounds like it would be easier to rent it as.
Apartments is so much easier to rent than commercial, big time.
So.
And we don't know that I had a lot of problems, just, when I got no comments, that apartment rent.
So that would give you a bigger space to rent as a residential,
Right,
and conceivably bring in more income. I think, just my own opinion is, I think that might be an easier let comes in the. In terms of, the special use permit.
and it wouldn't take much to take that, what I got there, and make that working for apartment.
That's what I'm saying, it might, rather than.
See, I was thought that it was gonna be harder for the apartment than to keep commercial space.
Well, it's just having 3 units in the building that you can rent instead of 4 units where you have a full renting one of them might not,
That's not a problem, I think you probably, take care of that.
I think that's, one of the options.
yeah,
Looking at the options.
I think I'd like to postpone on our behalf. To first off, have you take a look at the option of. Take a good serious look at the option of going just. Apartment. Consuming that space into an existing apartment. One way or the other.
And leave the commercial space the way it is. Or do you want to get rid of the commercial space? And make that into a-
No, the commercial space can stay as is. as long as you don't make a third apartment. Now,
Staying
on the flip
corporate.
side, there is the issue about what's in there right now. That's a separate issue altogether, and I'll leave that in Joe's hands or Jim's hands. But
Let me know what's in there.
it's not permitted,
Okay.
okay? Assuming it's a retail shop, it's not permitted. The offices were. Because they.
But I can see where the opposite, at one time, I think it was just that one part, but this where I convert back, where the apartment is, that was in the old building.
Yeah, but
That was part of the, that was part of the add-on.
either way, but that was back in like the seventies or sixties,
For my time.
and before the zone.
Most of us here probably.
Yeah. So basically. You either consume that space. It's not rented into one of the two apartments.
Okay.
That can happen without even coming back to us. Okay, that's just between you and the building inspector. Or if you want to pursue what you got here or some variance of it, then we need more information as to financial hardship and
So that would be more community records.
that and some backing saying that you can't rent it as an office.
Well, if it doesn't show up in the resume, then would that be sufficient?
No, we need a good faith effort on the owner's part to rent it in the method, in the type of place it is permitted. And that would be office. But you've already sectioned it off.
Right.
So that's where it gets sticky.
Oh,
No, it doesn't. I keep doing office because that would be a special use permit.
Right,
So,
and I'm not sure. How it influences your thought process, but, you know, the city's in the middle of rewriting our zoning ordinance that's gonna be done in 12 to 15 months. It's supposed to be making, one of the points of emphasis is making it easier to have a residential. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how the changes are gonna be on Fourth Street, for example, but definitely a point of emphasis is to. take
well,
down some of
the master plan isn't trying to get more residential in the RH district. Actually,
I'm not positive, I just know that, you know, I'm not,
I know the government had a thing that Edwards and that reduced their zoning laws so they can have more residential apartments or whatever people live, because there's a shortage of.
yes, they are
The
trying
ones in the
to.
city right now, from that area, they're not very good. I hear that all the time. I don't know, I haven't seen it, but I'm just going over what people tell
Well. So I think. Yeah,
So for appeal,
no, postpone it.
so I make a motion for appeal 2352 to postpone on the zoning board's behalf. For no more than 2 months.
Yeah.
From today's date.
me. Okay. You want financial records, you want, trying to rent it.
Or
Something that-
alternatively, take a look at the option that Joe is provided that gets you away from this altogether.
Yeah, if you want to give me a call and stop down this week.
That's it.
If you want to give me a call, maybe stop down to the office and bring down this week. I don't know.
Okay, do that.
At your convenience, everything.
Uh,
At your convenience.
yeah, okay.
No, I mean, when you're gonna be in town,
Would you want me to stop you, or would you rather just, hold?
it's up to you, whatever's better.
Otherwise, it's easier for me to call.
Okay.
Okay, well, now, have to go through that.
Okay, all in favor of the. Aye. All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. I'm missing this. One. Did I get that right? Yes. Okay.
One of the new that's.
Good evening. Hate doing that.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to expand your driveway?
Yeah, I guess it was a misconception to see my relatives have owned that prior, 20 years prior to me being there for 13 years. And that's always been a parking spot. Nobody told us it wasn't a parking spot. Where we were parking on the side there, when you guys were on in the meeting. That's always been a parking spot, and next to the house is always been a parking spot. Nobody ever said we need a permit or variance for that, and that's why we've always talked to there. I heard you guys had mentioned that you guys were concerned about using the taking the hedges. The reason I wouldn't take the hedges out, that's why I specifically put the area that we're parking in, that we have in there, is because the neighbor likes the hedges, and I'd rather than disrupt the neighborhood, I'd rather keep that in place, keep the neighbors out.
Okay.
And it would be paved on both sides, and it would be tapered, it would not be a straight shot as you guys are asking, so if we would pull it in, we will not enter the sidewalk, we go in. Just a little over the.
Is your place the one right there in the center here? Okay.
Yes. And the trees are actually way over on my property. Dixie actually owns the maple trees you guys were talking about in the meeting, and it's actually like 7 to 10 feet away from where we have to park. It's just that tree is massive, and I love the tree, so we've never had anything for the front.
So your plan is,
So underneath the tree, there's plenty of room to pull in and park, and it's only a little bit of it, it's not anywhere near. And so rather than take all those hedges out, which is all on my property, I wouldn't do that to Dixie and leave that there for him for his privacy purposes.
so your plan on the house side is to.
Basically, even with the house, and then it would, you can see where it is tapered, it would taper over to have access to the parking spot next to the house.
So that would be paved, and then
Then at the end of the driveway,
would you pave up to the hedges?
yes, yeah.
And that would not provide you with sufficient.
That would give you enough parking if we did that, so you'll think we have 3 vehicles, and we leave it all different times to be. The day. So by having that spot, we've always parked it under where the tree is, and on the side of the house is in the center, that gives us ample parking. Without disrupting anything, yeah, and as I stated, it's been there for probably close to 30 years now. So we had no idea, I told my brother-in-law that there was an issue with parking, he goes, what are you talking about? Nobody's ever said.
But you realize you can get 3 parking spots.
Yes, if I took the hedges out, but like I say, I didn't want to disrupt my neighbors. Because they like the privacy of having the hedges there.
Who owns the hedges?
I do,
You do.
I do, so I could take them, I guess, but I'm trying to be nice to the neighbor and not do that to them.
Don't worry, neighbors cut down hedges all the time.
I know. I know.
So that's kind of our dilemma. Is you have the property that you could legally,
Correct, they hear me out on this, I don't need it down the street, has 38 feet of parking spaces, I believe I heard I had allowed 36 feet in the front without having. And I like to exercise that way, because I'm only using the curve, I'm using 10 feet.
when you're being your luck,
Huh?
the luck,
What's that?
the luck house in the corner.
No, he's down the road, like 3 houses down south of me, heading towards the college, and he's got his running his whole 2-bed garage. He has a complete parking space, and he has left over behind.
All right, well, but for clarification purposes, what you heard was me saying how wide our zoning ordinance says the apron, your driveway entrance. But our zoning ordinance specifically says a driveway can only be a certain.
Right, and
So there is a,
yeah, that's what.
the entirety of your driveway cannot be 36 feet. long.
Right, and I would only want that, I'm only asking for an extra 10 feet.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. No, and that's why I have actually got a permit already approved, from what I understand, for the side of the house. And actually tapered it and agreed to do that, which is why they ended up with never done straight. I'm trying to use it, be as least invasive as possible.
What is it to the hedge?
Sort of told that shadow, place in the middle, it's like that.
Like two-ish?
Do you use the garage for parking?
Yes. But it's for a plastic car, it doesn't get those.
So the 3 cars that you use
Or park outside.
are parked outside.
According to the ordinance, once you guys say move the building, you would build, you would be able to drive by there. In front of the city.
Yeah, but I'm starting to cars across.
If like the hedges out there, could, I know it could, but I wouldn't, like I said, I didn't want to do that fixed. You know,
So do you have enough room
for the
next to the house to park 2 end to end?
No, so between the driveway and the house, there were 2 vehicles. And without taking the hedges out, you cannot physically put a bridge line.
You can fit 2 end to end, no, you can see.
No, because it would be considered parking, and actually, that there was a ticket issued to my son's girlfriend, and according to was actually. Just really past the edge of the house, it wasn't even past the porch, and they issued a ticket for parking on. And that's how this all started.
Well, then. Parking along is different. than Parking in the front yard.
Where parking was parking in the front yard is what it said, is what the difference.
Because all parking is supposed to be on non-pervious surface, correct?
Yeah, if you're creating parking nowadays, our ordinance requires it to be paid.
Right, it will be, I would have put in more in this year and next year. I would have. Well,
Gravel is not allowed now, you can probably see some older driveways that are gravel, if they were created prior to, the 80s when they were forcing us. Those can stay. You can't create a gravel driveway now. Not without a variance for not paving.
We need to talk about the corner process.
So I have a question.
Sure.
You said that you're currently planning on doing the paving from the side of the house over to the driveway. When is that? This view?
What is that in the show?
This is from the application.
Street.
Straight view is just kind of the street. And you said you have 3 vehicles that you need to park.
Yes.
Is there a way of utilizing that newly paved area?
No, because see how that tapers over? If I park, basically from the house forward, there's only room for 1 spot. They do not want me parking on an angle part, because I have to taper that as access, so there's no room for more
Right.
than 1 vehicle.
So what I was thinking is, if you pave from the side of the house to the right side corner of the garage, expanded your driveway.
Not gonna have 3 vehicles, I would have to take that is.
If you went in to the side of the house and parked at an angle, your 2 vehicles at an angle there. With your expanded
You would
driveway,
be able to park at an angle, because then you get something with the time at all. It is entirely too narrow. You can't even go into the garage in the house with a vehicle. It's too narrow.
Which space, do you know where your property is?
I literally own 2 feet from that tree.
So
I wouldn't even be true. Because I'm only gonna go over, there's gonna be a good 4 to 6 feet.
Actually, I did need to take that, but I just, at this point, because I'm literally on one here, the minimum amount to meet the parking requirement. Basically, half of this is from the tree where we park is there. Or actually, the spot was more off, we don't actually pull most of that, or halfway through the little place here, something. Just to make sure you guys know what's in front of the board, it's only that space adjacent to the tree. Whatever he's talking about doing near the house, that's gonna comply with the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me open up to the public. Anybody in the public got any comments?
I support this project. One thing I have a driveway.
Are you the neighbor?
No, I'm not, no. If I could have had all of you would gladly said, Katie.
While I do have it open, we did get a letter from 11th Sanborn saying that they oppose it.
11 Sanborn?
Yes.
That's all it was.
Nine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Proposed location 11. Yeah, there is 9. And since all others in our neighborhood are abiding by zoning ordinance, we see no compelling reason to offer a variance in this case. And they said the same thing that community development said here, as an alternative to parking on the lawn, there is on-street parking directly across the street. Therefore, there is no reason to provide a variance. And our community development sent us a note to that same effect about, you know, in this neighborhood.
So my neighbor down the street who has all that paving that in front of his garage and his house. It has less than instead of permit. He approved in 2010, and I know someone came in 2007. So what we got, you know what I'm saying? It was.
I guess I can't answer that because I'm not familiar with that.
So when you were down the street, has less property frontage than I do, he has 36 feet in front of a paved driveway in front of his garage, which is on the property. In front of the house.
Again, I'm not familiar with it. It didn't come before me. I don't. That would be a question for the.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me either, but I will guarantee you that was not just created just simply with a building. They, what you may have told
You got a variance in 2010.
oh, you got a very,
Exactly, that's why I'm here, because that's all I don't know. Because like I said, I've been in since 2010. and rather than all this, it's just 99. Nobody's ever had an issue.
Now, the other issue that I have with it is you do have property that you could do a legal spot. And you don't want to, because you don't want to get rid of your hedge.
Well, I honestly would just soon tear it down, but I don't want to hear like the hedge because it was privacy, and I thought they had a nice neighbor. I think you'd leave it there. You knew we got in today, but if I thought that's what I had to happen, that's what would happen, and then make it unhappy neighborhood, which is what I want to do for all some each other in neighborhood.
Do cut down, just tell him ahead of time so we can put that up.
If they were to
Or have a conversation with him and say, you know, I'm going for the variance, for
I
this
told
paved
this.
area.
Use like the piece. I don't find the use.
If you were to, so do the paving that you're talking about on the whole side. And paved up to the hedge.
Mhm.
And then take from that down the other side, so it'd be like.
Yeah, and where I'm talking about doing, I wouldn't do like a straight from the head, it wouldn't be a straight, it would actually be tapered. So yeah, I would be curved.
I'm just saying that if you did that, what you can do, right? Without a variance. And then see if you guys can make it work. So it will get you like. Oh, you know, we could use, looks like an extra 3 feet on the neighbor's side. And the full side. Parking spot on the house side. And then the taper on both sides to work with. You see what I mean? So if you were,
So let me just show you what we're planning on doing. It's not quite exactly clear. So basically. It's gonna come in and pull in just at an angle, it's not even gonna go over, it come in and go in and be like a circle. It wouldn't be a straight shot maybe at the back. So it would be somewhat cohesive for the neighborhood.
I'm just saying that without a variance. Correct.
Without a variance, I'll be cutting all those edges down.
I mean, without a variance. So can I go there?
Yeah.
Without a variance, one. Did this, just saying,
No,
something like that. Then if they right up to an edge. Might want to trim it back a little bit,
all there are is your back.
and then taper that down to here. And see if it would work for it.
Well, I'm only asking for literally like 10 feet instead of. You know, because if I go through and do that, it's gonna look a lot more massive.
Well, I mean, the taper access is allowed. And the paved part that you want isn't out of variance.
That's why I'm here, right? I would like to variation. I would rather not disrupt the whole property, because I thought part of this is to keep the neighborhood looking similar to the way it has.
Well, what
It
I-
has in the way since 1951.
What I'm saying is, I don't think it would really
It would be a massive undertaking
go,
to do what you're saying. Yeah.
that's what you're doing.
Well, where I'm talking about is literally just going in and it's 20 feet, it's 20 feet by 10 feet is what I'm putting in for. You look at the permit, I'm not asking for the whole 75 feet of yard. You know, I'm not asking to go tremendous amount, basically enough to say.
Well, were you planning on paving the patch?
No, not over that way, not at all. I was planning on going up to the base of the hedges. I was not planning on paving all the way down here to the garage, no.
Man, I think that you can get quite a bit more parking space.
You can't argue your vehicle without taking that hedge down.
Well, I guess my suggestion is. Try it and see if it works for you.
I actually trimmed the hedges back as far as I could without killing it. Yeah, you cannot get through vehicles in there no matter what, especially if it's winter time, you wouldn't find any vehicles. There's no way.
I guess what I'm saying is that. With the tapers that are allowed. You can kind of sneak another car in there. Right, so that you can, but the tapers that are allowed.
It has to
On
be
both
beyond, it
sides.
has to be beyond the front of the house. It cannot be on the front lawn. That's what
But
it's-
the tapers though, and the taper, the,
Right, but you can't park on the taper, because they would issue a ticket.
I don't think they're like,
They did,
on a paved tape.
they, I'm telling you right now, they would, they ticketed. She was like, almost in my front.
That wasn't paved.
Yeah, I actually don't think that's true. I don't know the circumstances of the ticket that you're talking about, but if you are parked on a paved surface, like in this scenario, that garage is a parking space. Nobody's gonna ticket you for parking on the driveway, not in the garage. I mean, I'm not the parking enforcement officer, but I'm gonna guess that they were dealing with a parking on the lawn or in the front yard.
Right, so let me clarify the front one, so from what I understand from what you said this meeting, the front porch. It would have seen straight across that, correct? So I had another 12 feet forward, which will cover almost half of what I'm asking for in variance.
I mean,
I'm not sure I'm understanding the point. So you said to be considered the front of the house. wherever your line with your porch is considered part of the width of the house, so I could actually come this far another 8 feet, am I correct?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question.
So from where the house is there, where the porch comes out, that distance, that's part of my house. Am I correct in understanding?
That's a covered porch.
That's correct. So therefore, straight across,
Should it be close to the front property line, then what is required, which is 25 feet, actually, that doesn't look like it's more than, that doesn't look like it's less than 25. So my guess is that that meets the front yard. requirement.
so actually I only need less than 10 feet. 10 feet by 10 feet for that parking, because if you go across from that and you ran straight over to there, I would have over 3/4 of the car park there. I'm asking you for a minimal amount of space for the front yard.
You're not asking.
Well, I'm asking for the variance for that little bit, because basically where that porch comes across, goes straight across over. It comes. Pretty much to right here. Okay, so I'm asking for permission to pull a vehicle in here and. That's it.
So, just to be clear, a couple of different things. First of all, what was done in 2010 was not done by this board.
I understand.
So, and we are a different board, both flexible with some things, but also kind of buttoning up things that were not, that needed buttoning up before. The second thing is, it is really rare for this board to grant a front yard driving space. That is super rare. We've had several people come to us for it. And historically, we say no, because it is not something that we feel is a beautification of the city to have that much pavement right at the front yard of homes. One of the neighbors has written that they would for us not to do that. And the third thing that we're struggling with is that you have an option. It's not the great option. You don't want to have that option with your cedar hedge because you want to be a nice neighbor. But you're asking the board to be okay with you wanting to make that decision when you have that option. Like that's something that you need to speak with your neighbor about. Talk about, you know, maybe if we take the hedge out and we put in a nice fence or something like that, but you have an option. And so we're trying to be creative here and come up with some sort of a solution that doesn't put the driveway right up front like that. I guess I want to be clear about that we're trying to work with you, but it's what you're asking may seem like not much for you. It's what I'm saying is that it might not seem like much of an ask for you, but it is for us. This is something that we weigh very seriously. So I just want to be really clear about that. We're trying to work with you here.
Well, keep in mind that this has been a parking spot. I will be honest with you, if I would have never bought a house. If I had known we weren't going to be told where we park, because that's been a parking spot since 1994. So you guys, you talked about a gravel parking spot, you can see that spot has been there forever. And I'm willing to pave it to adhere to your ask, saying it needs to be paved, and I'm not questioning. But I would like to be able to have it, so slots those three things without disrupting the neighborhood. As far as my neighbor on that side, who has been my neighbor, the neighbor on the left side just moved in last October, and he wasn't happy when he found out this pin that I own 3 inches away from his wall of his house, and that's why he's probably not very happy.
So is it the Robert?
That would be it.
Okay.
Yeah, he was asking where the pin was, and I showed him where the pin was, and it actually goes over, and he actually still mowing a little bit of my lawn, so I'll correct him very quickly. On the other side.
All right, shall we, if we,
Can I say one other thing that should be considered? And this is, and I understand what he was saying about there's public parking. Well, if that's the case, then you should prohibit anybody from parking there during the college time, because you can't back out of my driveway without the state of you park there during college times, which is reported here. So I would agree with that. He would agree with that because he knows he's been down the street. So literally, there's no room for someone to park there when they're parked there, and they park there 24 hours a day. They don't move.
So that is why there was always people parking there, and like he says, as he benefit, he can verify that's truly how it is. And this is fields, you guys all know, I call on a regular basis, we parking, verify.
Before we go further, there's a conflict in the seeker. You want to expand from 12 feet to 20 feet. Yeah.
Yes, I'm asking for the.
Your diagrams all show 10. Your building plot and your picture shows 10 feet.
Yeah, it should, it's only 20 feet wide, so. Oh.
Yeah.
That was my mistake.
So it's 8 feet by 22.
So your drawing here shows. Would you be taking, right to the sidewalk, that's
If you would want me to, I'll do whatever you guys ask. I'm only gonna pull in, pull in spot and then go off of there, so. It would be big evenly if that's what we require.
no idea, I think it would.
It would look more normal. It would look more appropriate.
That it was stay right to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Would you be?
If we grant this job, he paved the triangle out to the road, out to his cut in the curve.
You mean without addressing the curb drop?
Yeah, without touching the curb cut.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to take a look at it, but we wouldn't want to address it. The curb cut's tricky.
Yeah, but it narrows down from the curb cut.
Right.
You could pay to the curve.
I mean, would you allow him, if they're taking from the curb cut in line with the corner of the spot that we gave them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the rule of thumb is the smallest reasonable access to that space.
Okay.
If somebody wants to loop it around like this, and then
Nothing about that underneath the pavement, it's on the side of the sidewalk, the curb and leave that alone. And then just go over and kind of pave at an angle. I was trying to get it like he's saying, the least amount of space without looking.
Well, but what's a legal, what do you consider a legal parking spot? How long?
that way it's
18. That only gives you 4 feet to curve into it. Which isn't a whole lot of space to get into the spot. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot there, Joe.
are you still asking me a question?
No, I guess.
All I'm gonna tell you is, we have no choice but to consider a parking spot on 18, because that's what our zoning ordinance says. When you get into site plan review, the planning board actually has the ability to go to subcompact and stuff like that, but yeah. When we talk about what's a legal parking space, getting beyond the front of the building, we always consider it 18 feet.
Okay.
Not 16 or 50, oh, they get 15 feet beyond, so that's legal, no, it's always, the full 18 feet has to be there for it to be considered legal.
Just as I look at this. If you only pay that 8 by 22, I think you'd be driving across the lawn on the other side of the sidewalk. Just don't see where.
No, because if we pull in, we go to our plan there. If you saw where we park, because we don't literally park all the way through, there's not a whole lot of spots. Like there's plenty of width right there, 8% enough. It's wider than it looks in the picture kind of thing. Though, because the way you pull in, it's always at an angle. You're turning into the driveway.
Now, by the way, I'm not saying that you need to grant him 9 by 18.
I know,
Okay, all right, if he says, hey, he get away with less parking, because a car really. Car's 6.5 feet wide, 7
Right.
feet wide, and a truck maybe a little bigger, so.
My truck is primarily in the driveway spot. I work on everything else.
not in length of a car,
8 by 15.
the cars.
Which would be, find and more accurate than. Showing exact, I mean,
There should be a picture of it in there.
well, we have a picture, but it's
There should be an area in that too.
the other picture. Even. So. In other words, if you were gonna pave that cut to the curb. Curb cut there.
Maybe the street would be better.
Or you could pave a little bit to the side of the curb cut.
Yeah,
To me,
that would be fine.
to me, their spot.
Yeah, I'll do that. If that's what's required, I'll do that. I have no problem with that. I'm paving, there's a guy paving, he's paving. It doesn't matter, you can't, how you paving.
The sidewalk is level through there, it's less, it doesn't.
Yeah.
For your front.
No, it's all over.
If you guys granted that variance, we would actually want him to pave that part, otherwise he'd be driving over the grass.
That was my point. All right, let's go through the seeker. Question 2 should be yes. Building permit. Question 14 wasn't answered. We're a city, so we're urban. If anyone else had any other comments about the seeker. Open to the motion.
I'll make a motion for field 2353 after review of the short assessment, environmental assessment form. That we share, check boxes 1 through 11. No or small impact may occur and sign that. The proposed action will result in little to no environmental impact.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. So we want to do a motion as revised from the 8 foot versus the 10.
10 versus 12. Or no, it's 12, so you just asked for 8. Okay.
Yes.
I'll make a motion on appeal 2353 for class B area variance, for lawns of parking in the front yard. Based on the pictures provided, it being 8 feet wide and 22 feet deep.
So are we stipulating a smaller section in the front to go in at an angle? Or are you going?
We'll just give them that and the inspector's office will give them his access to it.
Yeah, this is actually, it's a city property, you couldn't grant a variance for it.
Second.
There, that hands left.
Just, not something that.
No. Four yes votes and 1 no vote. So it passes. And then one who said no is me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Surprise.
I wondered if you'd be.
Just I don't like parking, but it may be the case, so see the building inspector, you're good to go.
All right, sounds good. Awesome.
Yeah. Ryan Darby, administrative review. Not sure we've had one. We have. My time.
No, well, maybe the original variance.
I actually, Kelly was for the original,
Yeah,
I was
remember.
also.
Yeah.
And I actually went back and listened.
Sure.
Lisa very nicely found the video or the audio, so listen to the discussion and what have you, it didn't come through. Awkward software, but. Yeah. So you're questioning the denial of.
I'm not, if I can start.
Yes.
I'm not questioning the ability to have storage in an R2 or unit at all. I'm not here about that. What I am here to do is further define, I guess, storage and warehouse, which is how my variance is written, not warehouse storage. Which is a significant difference in my mind, because in the zoning book, there is no differentiation between storage independently and self-storage. Aside from that, I think anyone who's known this building knows it has no other purpose than a commercial one. It is a residential place. It also has gone through a variance process every time it's changed uses and gone through 3 to 5 years of hardship before it found a new home every time. And Snap-on is leaving it. We're building a new warehouse starting just in a couple months of through. And I would like to continue to use the building and update it for the storage side of the variance that I believe I have. So Snap-on is a terrible place for there. It has worked out without complaint, but the traffic is rough, no doubt, and semis have made constant complaints to us about backing into state orders. So we're relocating to a facility that better suits us in size and in our general business practices. And leaving the remaining giant, 6,000 square foot box that's back there virtually, the plan would be to put a second floor in it and then build it with self-storage cages. I have used the building for storage the entire time, completely separate from our Snap-on business. As I stated, I would in that first variance, because it is a split in half building on the inside where the bay doors, the front is a tunnel that's 100 foot, 25 foot wide that goes all the way to the back. And that 2,000-ish square foot has been primarily all we've ever needed for Snap-on out of that building. But due to the convenience of it being approved on the zoning board and it working centrally for Snap-on, we have, toughed it out, so to speak, through the time we've been using the building. But we are going to leave it no matter what. And instead of the building going back to a state of sitting for 3 to 5 years, to prove hardship again, and hopefully someone comes along that is a pet store or a warehouse or a truck shop or whatever the many causes of this building has been through its long lifetime before the zoning board. I would like to be able to use storage permit in entirety for the entire building, put it through an extensive remodel and put 75 to 100 pages in. And I realize that requires, a building permit, an engineering, but I'd like to clarify the variance, the class A variance I've got for warehousing and storage as 2 separate things, not as one warehousing storage. And if they were warehousing and storage, why is there an and in that variance to begin with? It's always was going to be dual purpose. I realize it's my personal stuff being stored in that half of it, unlike it would be other people's personal stuff, but the main point behind this is that the building is storing people's things. A storage facility is still very low traffic. I mean, very few times to more than 2 or 3 people at a storage facility changing out their stuff out of cages at any given time. And I would put this to use here pretty quickly. Our facility for Snap-on in Peru is going to start in just the next couple of months. And it's only going to probably be a 6-month build before it's finished, and then the building will go vacant.
if I don't get this usability, and Dr. Brown will put it back up for sale, as I won't close out my deal at the bottom of their house. But in the event we can use the storage half of it, I'm going to complete my sale with them, get on a schedule with AES in the town to create a solid building plan and engineered system for it, you know, and pursue that as the building's permanent future.
Does the owner, would the owner entertain redeveloping the property as residential?
Not to my knowledge, he's informed me that he's gonna put it up for sale immediately if this doesn't go through, so. I am looking at potentially even being short-term homeless if he did happen to find a buyer in that short amount of time, which I'm not really concerned about with the building's history, but at the same time, that is bad. I mean, it has gone into a state of hardship every time someone's left in the last 15 years.
Self-storage facilities. Do you have any experience running self-storage?
I don't, but I have owned multiple businesses across the last 12 years, and I am highly educated in business, and I feel very confident in my ability to make that happen.
Do self-storage facilities have issues with like building?
I mean, when you remodel a building in entirety, you know, and you go through to make it a very brand new building, and it's completely, it's gonna be a climate controlled building, it's not gonna be full of storage. So I wouldn't think we would be in that outdoor scenario of, you know, external entrance cages. This is more of a, you go into a front door with an electric key card, you have a bay inside a building, you go to that bay, you do your business and you take off, and it's gonna be designed to not run by a person, completely automated.
Yeah, the one thing to realize is that we are not reviewing this as a use variance. We are just reviewing the inspector's determination that the previous use variance does or does not apply to what he wants to do. Okay, and hopefully you realize that also.
I do.
Okay. It is not, so it doesn't have to meet the requirements. But on the flip side, really the question is this a change of use where the use variance goes away?
And I do have a class A variance for storage.
So how would you define the difference between self-storage and storage?
Right now, it's a 2,500 square foot open room that you can park anything you can get in through outside access into the room versus going inside, having individual sized cages of, you know, 5 by 5 through 12 by 12 boxed off with hallways between them with individual access to those storage points rather than, you know, a large open space for storage.
To me, the difference, I mean, there's a difference between using a space that's assigned to you as storage where you are maintaining and the storage, right? It's yours.
Not according to the zoning book, from what I know. There is no differentiation in storage in your zone,
Correct.
Right.
and I have a storage there, it's already.
Now,
I mean, self-storage is it's a fairly new phenomenon.
Well, but we're here, we're in a law here, you know, that's what a zoning code is, and there is no differentiation.
No, that's right, and there was recently a self-storage facility constructed on the south end of town, but that was in a district that allowed the term storage.
I agree, but I have already seeked out and received the class A variance for storage.
Understood. So what the board needs to understand, and Kyle couldn't make it tonight because he had to bring his wife to doctor appointment. Kyle listened to the tape, and I think you talked to Kyle.
I have been moving, this isn't about, you know, trying to win one over
Yeah,
the town, this is
No,
about
and it's
trying to keep a building running.
Not the board decided what our feeling of what was approved, and we listened to the actual meeting at the time. We saw in print what was approved, and then we also listened to the meeting. When I say we actually didn't listen, Kyle gave me the synopsis. It was Snap-on business for storage warehouse for your personal stuff, but the warehouse maybe for the Snap-on, and then also storage for one person for a boat, maybe?
My personal stuff.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so that's,
So there was Snap-on was the original terminology, that was the sole purpose of that building. But when I went to the variance board, I knew I only needed half of that space. So I added as a second tier, storage to it generically. And yes, we discussed talking about my boat and storing personal objects, which I'm not in denial of at all. But now moving forward, I still do have a Class A variance, which it is up to the board to either decide this is a realistic thing or this is not at all. But if that is the choice, and no hardship to me either way, the building, I'm very confident will go back into hardship. And we'll be sitting here and I won't be, but someone will be sitting here in, 3 to 5 years pitching you on the next use of this building. When you have a variance you've already approved for storage with someone here already willing to continue using and developing the building for a good cause that does fit in that area for what this building is in a zone it never should have been in the first place. And moving forward with that, versus, just letting it continue to dilapidate and someone leaving it,
Now, when that building went in, that was a significantly different neighborhood than it is now.
Agreed, but we're not gonna tear down a building because the zone has changed.
You said it went in where it shouldn't have, well, when it.
Well,
went
maybe
in,
the residential went around something it should have. One way or I'm not here to argue that. My point is, we have a zoning code that is what it is. I applied for and received a Class A variance for warehousing and storage separately. There is no differentiation between storage in the zoning catalog. I would like to continue using the variance as I was granted. Maybe there is a modification in it to the board, but just being completely clear with it. And if that use is not available, the building I know is going to go up for sale by Dr. Brown, and I will move on to my new warehouse, and that will be a show. But I'm here to offer a better solution for the property and for the city, and that is up to you guys.
Okay, and I listened to the tape also.
Sure.
All the way through. And I was there and I remember it. We had a lot of discussion. You did say Snap-on, tool storage and shop for Snap-on,
Sure.
one section. Personal residential storage, car boat, etc. in the rest. One area for rentals to one party for basic storage was a possibility. One of the questions was, another business looks to do something there, do they have to come back? And the answer was yes.
True, but I'm asking for a variance that I already received.
But you're
No,
not actually. asking
you're not.
for variance.
You're asking us. Take a step back here. We are to decide whether this is a change of use, or it is the same use, or if it falls within the same use that we granted you.
Okay.
And we granted you very specific based on what you told us you were going to do in there. Okay, and I believe that the motion was for warehouse, tool storage, and residential storage. And all the discussion was one person or two, yours and somebody else's. And you're talking something significantly different, in my opinion.
Okay.
And we also had discussion about limiting tractor trailers and that sort of thing. I'm sure you're
Yeah.
for that.
Well, I mean, that's motion does a Snap-on franchise. Housing listed level.
But that doesn't really I don't think it's germane to this question necessarily. It's really what we see and the notes that were given, whether a change of use. A use variance is for a very specific use.
I understand.
That's, you're presenting a hardship and you're saying this will give you a reasonable return. Ours is not to determine, again.
I'm not presenting a hardship.
I know.
Okay.
And ours is not to determine what is best for this neighborhood in this, what you're presenting. to us.
I understand.
I don't disagree, and maybe the best use there, that's a whole different story. Okay, it's really, is this a change of use that would void with previous use variance?
So I didn't listen to the audio, but we have the minutes in front of us from consent.
Sure.
And so it says, Mr. Domain asked if he wants to turn part of the warehouse, part of it into a warehouse and rent it out, does he have to come back? Mr. Nolan said, no, this is part of what the business is, Snap-on and storage. So then the appeal was to rent the location as a warehouse and tool storage and residential storage, limiting full-size tractor deliveries. To a timeline, so,
And that was all Snap-on based, the deliveries.
yeah, but that's the language that. Like I'm referencing in my decision.
Yeah, having not been there, and I also didn't put the audio, just looking at the typed up version of it, I'm with her in that it looks to me like residential storage, being which I would view as self-storage being allowable. But I mean, I was not there and I didn't listen to the audio, it's just based on what's written that.
Well,
it looks to me
and
like it would
the
be-
discussion, as you well would know, would be how many people are coming and going, well, it's my personal storage, maybe one other, and a Snap-on, whatever is involved with Snap-on.
Would this be for the thing?
No,
Yeah, no, I only saw this for
Yeah.
this variance.
the other questions, comments?
I guess my only other question is if we determine that this is not allowed in the previous variance. It would still be possible then for him to reapply for variance for self-storage and rest of the.
Yes.
Correct.
Not until it goes for hardship, correct?
You know, it wouldn't be the tenant, it would have to be the owner.
Yeah, it has to go back into complete hardship to get another class A variance from what I understand. That's what I was told by Kyle.
Yeah,
So the building has to virtually sit empty.
there's no exact prescribed time where that, you know, it has to sit,
I mean,
you know,
that
derelict.
last meeting, or something, maybe 3 years, and it's out for more. So I mean, that's an undetermined amount of time.
Well, except that 6 years ago, we have a hardship determination.
Sure. But I'm not going to come back and apply for it again.
Yes.
Just, I'm going to make that clear. I'm either gonna, this is either gonna work out on my current variance without having to go through the loops again, so to speak. Or I'm just gonna move on to my new building, which, like I said, that doesn't impact me either way, but I just see the use out of the building and I'm okay to make the further investment into the building and the city, and that's just something I'm willing to do, for my own personal gain, obviously, but if it doesn't work out for me, it's not my property currently, and I'm only going to complete my purchase of the building under the assumption I'm going to keep my variance that I have as storage and Snap-on, if I ever chose to operate Snap-on again, which is on.
Yeah, he could come back as the applicant like he did last time for Snap-on with Tom Brown. Did he have partners?
I've never met Tom's partner.
Whether is the only would have to provide the financial data to support the.
But it has to get back into a bad spot.
Is this, do we need a seeker, an administrator? No, okay.
Is this area likely to remain or to?
Oh, yeah.
General residential, I would presume that it is.
It's surrounded by apartments.
Yeah,
So I'm just gonna make a statement just to put it out there. Your request is for a review of what was said and agreed upon when you came before us before.
Yep.
That is it.
I understand.
I don't disagree with what you want to do with the property, but you're not asking for that here, so I have to kind of ignore that.
Off the recorded notes, maybe not, but off the written ones, I am.
Off of what we have for our data to use to make this determination tonight. We are being asked to confirm whether or not we believe that we had stipulated at that last meeting what you're specifically were what we were specifically allowing you to do.
Yeah, and I think if you'd have come back and to us and said, hey, I've got 2 new tenants that I could. Storage, I think our office would have said, yeah, that, I think that was, but a complete build out of self-storage, I think we just felt it's. Was not,
It's a cheaper use.
It is. But I do encourage you to come back.
I'm not going to.
Um,
It's going to go right. I already know where that building's gonna go, and so do all of you, because it's done it every time someone has one.
because
I know that's not a concern. I know economic, betterment is not a concern for the board, but you just, you'll only be a few years down the road before someone else is asking for a class A variance, so that will make them. And we all know it.
I mean, for me, I think that self-storage facility will lock it into that use for
A long
a long time. And if it is R2 and it's surrounded by apartment buildings, that perhaps letting the variance go and redeveloping the property as residential, maybe the better one.
Maybe. We looked into that. I talked into Kyle about that, and you cannot rebuild that building for a cost that makes sense. And then you won't meet green space codes, your access to the driveway gets really bad. It's all, the entire deed of the property is buried in red tape. From zoning through entry, through green space, through frontage, it's terrible across the board. And that's just what it is, it's why I've struggled and gone into hardship every time. So I'm not trying to drag the meeting on. I think we've gotten the point across. I understand what you guys have to vote on. Either way it goes, I'm fine with, and just, I was trying to create a good thing out of a variance that you guys just as easily could say, he did have storage versus doesn't. And that's worked out.
so that is the question before us.
I guess my only other question for you, is. Cause, based on what we said that's written, the variance to permit snap line tools to rent the location as a warehouse and tool storage and residential storage. Without specifying how many individuals utilizing residential storage, although it was verbally discussed, if it's not written into the approval. I mean, usually we're very careful what we write into the approval, it's to, we want to allow, what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah.
So,
It's yours, sir.
yeah, I guess that's kind of like.
No, that's an excellent point, and. We're not required to write up the minutes verbatim. But if we have them available to us, like if we couldn't have found the tape on this. And these meetings have been recorded for a long time now, it was 6, 8 years, or whatever, we've got, they're being live streamed right now. And before that, we had them on CDs and cassette tapes and that kind of stuff. If we didn't have that, then that's the record right there. Even if somebody remembered, hey, wait a second, no, I think we said something else, that's all we've got. We actually had more information. You had to look it up and see where it's at.
I asked Kyle to pull the tape, in complete honesty, because I didn't remember exactly the wording, and I wanted to know where either party sat. So I mean, there's complete transparency. He didn't, I never got it, but clearly you guys did.
We actually couldn't find the tape. I thought I'd find it on the CD, but he found it. I think he found it on recording online.
Kyle and I talked about this I bet you an hour on the phone, trying to best find the use of this building that's still blue. And the only thing it can be done without this is completely guided to nothing and turn it into an apartment complex. I called a couple of contractor buddies just off the top, and they spitballed to me 140,000 units to transfer that building. So now you're talking about a $1.2 million building for 10 units. It's not feasible, and then to completely tear it down, it's going to be in variance world for days just to get a site plan to build an apartment on that messed up lot, and that's, No, yeah, that's, I think I made
We're
it.
muddying the waters.
Yeah, it is.
So I need to do a public hearing.
You don't technically need to know.
Okay. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I heard storage many times and I agree that you guys said, yes, it's used for storage. Storage and self-storage to me is all the same. So I would agree with Mr. Darby and you know, you can't backpedal after you've already approved something. It's kind of my take on it.
Okay. Well, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for appeal 2354. To. To confirm. That the allowable use. For property located at. 553 Peru Street. Is restricted to residential storage. And the. Snap-on school. Use. Company use. And that. Any additional businesses would have to be, represented to the board.
Is that clarify this as different business or going off my variance?
Was that a question or statement?
I'm asking,
What was the question?
is that saying that I'm restricted to the uses I currently have, including what I'm requesting about the storage units? Or is that saying I need to go get another business? And
That
this
you
is-
need to, that you're changing the business and that you need to come.
So a yes vote is to uphold the building inspector's
Okay,
determination.
And no is to, okay,
what's that?
I'm just, and that was confusing, so.
I know.
Just voting against me, no, to vote for.
Right, well, well.
Yeah, okay, I just want to
That's for
see.
yes, but you didn't ask
Can
for.
I have you redo it all together?
Yes,
And just read it right.
okay, so for appeal 2354, a yes vote is for administrative review of building inspector determination. That the self-storage is not an allowable use in R2 district following approval of the field. For warehouse storage at this location.
So a yes vote is to hold the building inspector's determination. A no vote is to override it. Clear enough?
Yep, I understood that one.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Getting used to this between Peru and here.
Oh, and I should have said before him, don't worry about hurting the building inspectors. Feelings, they don't take it personally. I don't think.
I try not to.
All right. Interesting. Got 3 no votes and 2 yes votes.
Awesome.
The interesting thing is the 2 no votes, or the 2 yes votes are people that live in the meeting.
I assumed that already.
So,
Okay, so I assume I'll get a written letter confirming that?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Next time we're sending that audio. All right. That's my bedtime. So,
To postpone on.
So I have a question about that, if you have anyone.
Sure,
So basically, we just approved for him to go in and start a different business.
yes.
But so is a use variance granted to a business and not a building?
Yeah, the way I looked at it was.
It goes with the building, because you can't do it to a business, because the business can move,
Yeah,
and so it's to the property. But.
I thought it was too muddy, like there's no difference between storage and self-storage, is the
Yeah,
definition.
it was just not enough clear.
That's
answer.
why the tape was really important to listen to, because it also discussed traffic. In and out with the residential being right near there and, all of the different things with this new storage, like he has come forward with no business plan. And that's gonna have an impact on the environment and those houses and things around it. And it was specifically said, if there's going to be a change in the business, then you have to come before the board.
I feel like that should have been in what was approved though, instead of just outside conversation. I guess to me, what's approved is what the final line is.
Absolutely, sometimes that does happen, sometimes there is nothing else except the plan we're looking at that got approved, here's the plan. And even though we suspect, but that's the plan that was approved, we gotta go by that plan. In this case, when it came up, we looked to see if there was more information, even though we thought. And we found more information that cemented our position as to. And again, if he wanted to rent it to one or two other people. I would have said that's in the spirit of what was approved, but a build out of 75 units was not, in my opinion, because warehouse is not storage. Warehouse in our eyes goes with a business, right? Storage can be a whole bunch of different things. So
The other thing to consider is just because it wasn't written. You have people that listen to the tape and can essentially be witnesses. And say, here's what I heard of it.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing as to what the discussions were, I guess, to me, it's just kind of like the final ruling, so to speak, with that paragraph. So I guess kind of without the stipulations being set in place with that final ruling. I guess it's kind of.
That's where, quite often we say that plan. And essentially, that's what we said in the meeting is you presented us a plan, and it's a business plan, not a plot plan, but that's what we approved, is what you presented to us. As, and that's how you, when you do a use variance, if that's the use variance, is to take a look at what they're presenting and what they're gonna do.
So I guess my other question would be, if you were renting it out to another business that was going to turn it into self-storage, would that be acceptable because renting it? To one other business for storage, I guess, it just to me, it was too nuanced.
And that's fine, it was not cut and dry, there's no doubt about it. Hold your conscience and Joe doesn't, he's not gonna beat us up. And that's, it is what it is.
Is that right?
Everyone told us.
I don't think it's.
Yeah.
No, it's third.
That's later.
All right, we have minutes.
Oh, do we have to postpone for the people who didn't show up?
This is
Well, what-
Rob,
No, I
right?
think
We're at the end.
Should we just leave it and it's not?
Just like that. Joe?
I mean. I think I'm gonna. Reject their application, send it into space, so I never have to think about it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Honestly, I think. I think we do not have to postpone anything. I think we could have done that.
Yeah.
Somebody's doing something.
I don't think there's any power. So, is that hard to? What do you think about that?
I don't think there is. That's.
It's not
The door was in the store.
I'm not saying people don't enter and exit the building, but I do not believe there's any house.
We had a complaint about somebody sleeping in there and. I'm not gonna go myself a couple of times and. What I've heard from George is that there's somebody that works security there that has stayed outside the building. And I have seen someone parking in the parking lot, so.
Oh, you know what, that is it, because my husband applied for that job, they're getting like $8 an hour for security, which is
That's one.
not legal, but yeah.
Can I make a motion to review the May 15th minutes?
Yep.
Great, I make a motion to review the May 15th minutes and approve them as written.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Everyone in adjourn?
So,
All in
With
favor?
rain.
Aye. There we